Welcome to the eNABLE Town Hall meeting for October 30th, 2015. Town Hall is a weekly Google Hangout on air where team leads and community members are able to update the community on what's been happening. I'm Justine Diamond, your host for this week's meeting. Please remember that you can ask questions of any of our speakers through the Q&A feature. You'll find the Q&A at the upper right of your screen. Just click on that little grid of 9 boxes. If you're watching on certain devices, such as an iPad and certain phones, you may find you can't access the Q&A. Questions can also be posted to the event page in the comment section. We will monitor both as we go on and answer the questions as best we can. If you don't get an answer to your question during the town hall itself, we will try to answer it on the event post. So remember, town hall is about the community, and it's great when people are able to share what they're doing locally with the larger community. We have a couple of people today who will be doing that. If there's something you'd like to share with the community at an upcoming town hall, or if there's someone you think should speak, please let me know. You can leave a comment on the page with the broadcast, or you can email me at events.enable@gmail.com. So what's been happening lately? As I've done recently, rather than recite the list of events, I'm going to share the screen and show you the calendar. You can find the calendar on both the community webpage and the foundation webpage. And if you just give me 1 second, I will bring that up. If I could find it. Okay, I've got something going wrong here, so I'm not going to be able to do that right now. I'll try and figure that out in a minute. We do have several things on the calendar that are coming up that are of interest, including some things that I'll mention when I get to the education part, because Rich can't join us, but I will take care of that when we get through a couple of other things. So a couple of weeks ago, we had Keith Johnson here to talk about the Maker Faire in Orlando, and after that, I reported about the World Maker Faire in New York. And today we have Joyce Avila here, who has just 2 weeks ago did a Maker Faire in Denton in Texas. So we've got her here to tell us how that went. And Joyce, it's all you.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to share a little bit about the Denton Maker Faire that I recently had the pleasure of attending. And it was Saturday, October 17th. And it was a one-day event. It was 7 hours. And so it was a great amount of time. It was their first time to have a mini Maker Faire. And I thought it went really, really well, though, from their perspective as far as planning, and a lot of effort went into it. And for those who aren't familiar, Denton is near Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. And the Maker Faire was very well supported by the local university, and University of North Texas, and a lot of the libraries supported the Maker Faire as well. There was about 750 people who attended, is what I was told. And on our table, we had 2 3D printers. And one of the printers was provided by a company that also participated in February of this year with eNABLE and Marvel at the event in Dallas, Texas. So it was really great to have them. They had some experience, and they were wonderful. Also at the table was, in addition to the 2 people from Polyprinter who brought their printer, Artie Moskovitz was there, and I was there, and my daughter as well. So we had the table, for our size table, staffed really well, and I thought that part of it flowed really well. There was about the right amount of people. In addition to that, on the table we had the hands. We had a monitor where people could see like a variety of different pictures scrolling through, and then we also had some giveaways, some keychains, some paper clips, and that was really nice, and some flyers as well. And that worked well to have, I thought, the pictures rotating through, because it got a lot of people to stop right away, and the 3D printers, the action, so that really helped as well. The type of people who stopped by, there were 2 people who said that they knew people in their family or neighbors who were in direct need of prosthetics, And so of course, we pointed them to the website. There were a few people who stopped by in the medical field who had quite an interest in what we were doing. But for the most part, I think it was teenagers and educators. So a lot of the teenagers wanted a hands-on experience, showing how the hand works. And they thought it was really cool. And the educators, because it was so well, the Maker Faire was so well supported by universities. There was a lot of university educators, high school educators, middle school educators, and they seemed to be very interested in the E3 STEAM on the website. So in the future, I would like to have more information about that available hands-on for them, flyers or things like that. And the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, we had a couple of different people stop by and ask us to participate in the future at some Boy Scout and Girl Scout events. Fab Now is having an event early next year, and they asked us as well if we would consider coming back for that. The Maker Spot, which is a library, Maker Spot in the library in Denton, asked if we would consider doing something with the veterans, that they had a veterans approach that they were very interested in. And then lastly, a Barnes & Noble representative stopped by and asked if eNABLE would consider doing something at the Barnes & Noble Mini Maker Faire, and that's Saturday, November 7th. So I did commit to doing something for that. And then we followed up with the November 15th, we're going to gather at the Dallas Makerspace. So, what I thought, one of the things that worked well is people seemed very interested in what we were doing, but they were going to a lot of different things. And so when they found out that they could come to an event specific to learn how to, volunteer, what things they could do to volunteer or to make hands, that seemed to work out really well. Something that was a follow-up. And so that any questions about that?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm just, sorry, Peter. Go ahead.
I didn't catch something. Who is working with veterans who asked you if you'd be willing to share?
It's an organization called the Maker Spot, and it is they're in a library. So they're a maker space within a library here in the local area, and they've recently, I understand, gotten a grant, and so they've been they're pretty new. I think they opened like the very 1st of October.
Are they working directly with veterans?
I don't know the details. She had said that she has some veterans who are interested, but they haven't figured out a project yet. I do have her information, and she has worked with the Poly Printer Group, the 3D printer company that came and supported the eNABLE. So there's a lot of commonality going on in the local area support, but I can definitely get you her information.
Okay, keep us updated because we have been trying to break into the veteran community for a while now.
Oh, great. Well, and my husband is a retired veteran, so I have quite a bit of access to those local resources as well. So no problem.
Awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Joyce. Additionally, I'll probably follow up with you separately on some of those follow-on events, A, because I would like to add them to the calendar, and B, because I can give you some help with getting that stuff organized, and we can make it so you've got everything you want, and we can help you out with that. So I will probably get with you separately on that. Okay. I can now share the calendar because I think I sorted out that problem. So hold on one second. Let me see if I actually did. I did. So here you can see the calendar for upcoming events. There are, oops, I've just gone a little too far. There are coming up, as Joyce said, this weekend, coming up, or next weekend rather, are the Barnes & Noble Mini Maker Faire. I do know that we have a number of people who are going into their local Barnes & Noble, but only one person has provided me the actual details, which is why we just have, well, there's actually one for Maryland too. I'm sorry, there's two on there. So if you're doing one of the mini maker fairs at Barnes & Noble, please let me know. I want to get it on the calendar, and it's also good to know how many of those we've actually been able to get into. So anyway, if you come to the calendar and go through, you'll see there's quite a lot of things going on. The biggest one that's going on next week, or one of the biggest one, is this one here, the Pioneers in Purpose, a celebration for education. So what that is the Silicon Valley Education Foundation STEAM Innovation Awards, which are awarded in recognition of pioneering people in programs in science, technology, engineering, and math. And they present those awards to 4 organizations at this annual Pioneer in Purpose celebration. And we are one of their 4 celebrants. And Rich Lehrer, who heads up all of the E3 events, is going to be going out to Silicon Valley to accept that award. It does come with a small cash prize awarded to it, and we are going to be putting that money towards increasing our reach in the with E3 stuff. And just one second. So we're pretty excited about that. And we will have more information on that when Rich is not able to be here today. We will have more on that when he comes back. Rich also did a webinar with John Schul last week with the Buck Institute of Education, where they talked quite a lot about what's been happening with eNABLE in the classroom. There's a link to that in the community. It's a half-hour Google Hangout on Air like this, and I recommend, if you can, that you check that out and see what's happening. Before I go on, we do have 2 questions in the Q&A. The first one is, it says, your ads say that people get one of the hands had to pay $50 to $150 for them. Wait a minute. Yet no place does your site say people that print them get materials furnished by end users, nor is there any place that explains this. I'm not 100% sure what's being asked. For the most part, people who are fabricating hands pay for the materials, and there is no charge to recipients. There are some cases and some models where there is a charge. If you were listening last week when we had the 2 gentlemen from Paraguay, they're using a slightly different model in Paraguay, and they talked about the reasons why they're doing that. So I'm not 100% sure what's being asked there, but generally, at least here in the States, the general model is that people who are fabricators are getting the materials themselves, and recipients, there's no charge to recipients for the hands. And there's another question about the current status of the Flexi hand, and I will have to get back to you on that because I don't have that information right at the right at the top of my hands. Okay, we are going to move on now. I'll get back to any other questions in a minute, but we're going to move on to Les Hall, who, if you've been watching any of the R&D Hangouts, you're pretty familiar with some of the work he's done. He has been working recently on something that's going to, I hope, really revolutionize some aspects of our product testing. So I don't want to really steal his thunder, so I'm going to let him talk about what he's done. Les? You're
okay,
on.
I'll make some thunder myself then. How about that? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Test 1, 2, 3.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, okay. Well, what I have to show is something called Phone Home Project. There's a little chip out of China that enables us to have Arduinos with Wi-Fi capability. It's put on a little module that goes on a board here from Adafruit for $10. And through these pins here, we can program that device to do different Wi-Fi tricks, as well as to do ordinary Arduino-type things. As well as do ordinary Arduino stuff. So what this lets us do for $10 plus the cost of the batteries and a charger for the batteries is we can phone home with usage data. that's the initial goal of the project, and the usage data will tell us whether the hand's being used or not, and it can tell us various sensor metrics, things like how many times the hand is open and closed, what temperature it is, what the lighting is, stuff like that. Whatever the touch sensors are reporting, if it has touch sensors. If it's an arm with myoelectric capacity, then it can monitor the myoelectrics. So, but for right now, for test purposes, I have these two resistors, and it's just monitoring its own battery voltage. John had mentioned to me, he said, make the simplest little nothing, the simplest possible thing that this could do for your first project. So I couldn't think of anything simpler than two resistors. And that's what the device and the goal of the first project. I have it here on a gauntlet with these little battery holders that look kind of like spaceship warp nacelles. So they're kind of cool. They also strengthen the gauntlet. So that old problem of the gauntlet snapping when you apply external pressure is pretty much solved with this. And the electronics fits on top of the tensioner right there, tensioner block. I'm going to make a little fairing that slides over the top of it. So there's more tricks that this can do. Right now we have the server set up with an API written by Ro Ortiz, so that every time this thing phones home, it makes a line in a file, and we can all go look at that file and see that the entry was made. That includes a timestamp and a battery voltage and a chip ID. What Ro is doing next this coming week is he's going to write something that displays the battery voltage over time on a graph for each of the chip IDs. Just parse it out and lay up the graphs in HTML. In other capacities, this device can receive information. So we can send information from the central server to the hands. And a third, so we have hand to office, office to hand, and another possible capacity would be hand-to-hand communications through the office acting as a go-between. Now this being Wi-Fi, it uses a bit of power. We can only get something like 7 or 8 hours worth of usage, so you have to charge it every night like a cell phone. But there are other solutions, including Bluetooth, USB, and actually telephones, cell phone modules are available that we can put together. And I think some questions are piling up, or somebody's doing something. Let me just finish up what I had to say by rattling off the team members. These are people who have volunteered to help out with the project in whatever way possible. And they keep telling me, no, Les, you're leading this project, not us. I'm like, oh, man. Okay, I'll do it. First on board was Chuck Untoulis. He's a retired engineer, and he's been teaching me things. And he tells me I teach him things, too. And we've been working on the project together. Recently, just joining was Ray Kinnis, who's a fabricator. And he's going to fabricate some hands. Of course, I mentioned Ro Ortiz. Then there's Jen Mankoff, who is a professor at Carnegie Mellon University. She has a team of grad students who are experts at software, and they need hardware. So the current task that I'm doing and Ray is doing is preparing some hardware to give to the students to play with. Then there's Melina Brown. Your son's name is Eric, is that right?
Ethan.
Ethan.
Ethan. Oh, let me fix that. Ethan. And Peregrine Hawthorne, as was suggested by Melina, right? Who are going to be beta testing some early hands. So I'm making electronics kits that they can adapt to physically exist on whatever hand they prefer. I know Peregrine likes the talent hand, or his personal line of hands. And then just recently, you mentioned the VA. Someone posted about contacts in the VA, and I think, you know, if I was a veteran, I would want my hand to have comm capabilities and sensors and actuators and all kind of things like that, you know. So my perspective is, you know, I communicated with that person who's trying to set up a contact with the VA that we can add electronics to with this communication capability to their hands, and I'm hoping they'll be excited about it. But and that in a nutshell is the overview of what I've been doing, what we've been doing.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm excited about the fact that we can get some additional testing and feedback data, especially when it comes to new hands. So Les, right now there are some questions, but none of them are specific to what you're presenting. So, but hang on, because I'm pretty sure that there will be. But I personally think what you're doing is wonderful, because being able, like I said, especially with new hands and new designs, to be able to get a lot of feedback about how they're actually used and to be able to have that almost happen automatically is, I think, a really exciting development. So since we're on all of the R&D stuff, I'm going to hand this over to Peter, and then I'll get back to some of the questions that are popping up. So Peter, it's you.
Hey, Al. Hey, how's it going? I should probably start by trying to answer the questions that came up. One was about being reimbursed for materials, either by recipients or from another source. eNABLE does not provide reimbursement for hardware if you have to buy hardware. Clients, if you expect a client to pay anything for a device, you need to make that clear before you begin. Okay, so and your very first meeting, or even before you meet them, when you first contact a client, they need to be clear about what is expected of them. Okay, for the most part, clients pay nothing for devices, and so generally speaking, makers pay for hardware and filament. If you can find a donor to provide filament, there are donors out there. If you write some letters and explain what you're doing and explain that you're giving away devices for free, then a lot of the time you can get filament, and in fact some kinds of hardware you can also get for free if you explain to the people who run the company what you're doing and ask for it as a tax-deductible donation for your cause. However, if you bill a client in a surprising kind of way where they were not expecting to be billed, then you are going to get in some trouble with eNABLE. We actually removed someone from the community a little while ago because a recipient was being charged kind of a lot of money, and it was kind of after the fact. So the problem was they didn't make it clear going in, and then the client got a surprise bill. So just make sure you're communicating clearly, and if you need help, then ask for help from the people who can provide it. Okay. In terms of the FlexiHand, there's a question about providing custom hands to people requesting prosthetics from eNABLE. When you're making devices, a lot of the time there will be customization necessary, and sometimes there's not, but that is assumed to be occasionally part of the process. Now, it's not really our job to oversee these customizations, If you feel like you can't provide the necessary customizations, then you should let that client know so that they can get another maker who can do that. But if you are able to make modifications and fit them to a client and make it safe and successful for that client, then go for it. That's what people are doing all around the world every day. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Now, my R&D report, there was the R&D hangout this week, which starts after my bedtime, so I was able to watch it afterward, and it was largely Les's phone home project, and a very fascinating project about how we can get usage data, and about having electronics that can provide information and that can be linked, very much like a telephone, but it's in the device. So really exciting to see R&D go that direction and to see the possibility of really a lot of different capabilities. You start to get into it. It can there's really a lot that can be done with it. Let's see. Also in the R&D, they were talking about Marvel hands, but it was mostly just or superhero hands, and mostly just talking about how awesome they are and how that's opened a few doors with a Marvel Universe Live group. I was a little bit involved in that, and it was really fun and exciting, and the kids really got a kick out of it. And I think the stage actors who did Marvel Universe also were very excited to be involved in that. Recently spoke with a Haiti team, the eNABLE Haiti, and they expressed a need in Haiti, and I think that this is true of other parts of the world, for more anthropomorphic models. So it got me thinking about what kinds of anthropomorphic models are already available, and that sort of led me to the Make Human project. If anybody knows about the Make Human project, I've started to dabble a little bit, and one thing that I love about it is it interfaces beautifully with Blender. There's a Blender plugin, so you can tweak things within the Make Human program and then export into a Blender importable format, and then you can actually they're rigged models, so you can actually position a hand or an arm, and then I believe, I haven't done this, but I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, and if anybody's using Make Human, that would be very exciting. But I think that you can position an arm and a hand and then export that as a printable STL, which would be very exciting, not only for static devices, but for just generally more anthropomorphic models. So anyway, that's what I'm working on with the Haiti team, and that's my report for this week.
Thank you very much. And we will move on to Melina, who has some exciting news herself.
As many people know, we have struggled with our testing process for new devices. And we've kind of gone in different directions, and we've found hurdles in various different places. So we have come up with a solution that we believe will be a quick, efficient path to getting the new devices added to our recommended list. We will be rolling this out in the very near future. We're working through a few last little pieces of paper, so keep an eye out for that in the next week or so. And I think it's rather exciting to be able to move all of this along in a very, very positive direction in a very fast route. So I think it'll be something pleasing for everyone that's been frustrated in the past. The other thing I wanted to address is, I know there's quite a few people that are frustrated with the matching process. I want everyone to know that we know where the shortcomings are, we know where the broken pieces are, but this is what we have to deal with at the moment. We have a large number of people working in the background to create something that is better, that scales to our demand that we have now, and hopefully in the future it will continue to scale to that. But please understand, we have members of the matching team that are giving up time with their families. They're putting aside work time for their paid job. let's not beat them up quite so bad, because though it may not be perfect, it takes a lot of work to do what is being done, because we have a 100% manual system that has gone from May of 2014 with a couple hundred people to now 8,000 people. So it is a definite task to keep up with all of this, and your emails may get answered slowly. Sometimes they may not get answered at all. But we have to take the urgent matters first, and our community has to remember we do this for the families, not for ourselves. Those people are our primary concern, and those people are the ones we have to take care of first. So I would just like to please issue this plea to everyone to be a little more kind and a little gentler, and please just quit beating these guys up so bad, because they're dedicated to this. These are long-term volunteers who have given up time for well over a year, continuously, 7 days a week, and they're not getting paid. They're very rarely told thank you, and it's kind of disheartening to see that all of their time and work is so easily put down. So that would just be my request to everyone. Let's love each other and know that everyone's trying really, really hard.
I have a question on that topic.
Okay.
Well, it would seem that for the matching process, is there a way that we can offload some of that to software so that the matchers will be, people can,
Yeah.
is that what you're going to do?
Yes, we're working in Salesforce for nonprofits, which will help us automate the process in a much more efficient fashion. It'll also help us engage the volunteers more efficiently so that everyone knows what needs to be done. It gives everyone the opportunity to say, hey, I really want to help with this. But it takes time to build that. And we also have a matching app that's in process, and some other things related to that are going on. But all of it takes time because they're volunteers. They're juggling, and I think few people know one of our volunteers is not only helping handle matching, he's also making the app that will be used for matching in conjunction with that. So there's a lot of effort being put in that. I think it's just not the focus, and all of these people are kind of behind the scenes. They're not the ones you see on TV. They're not the ones that are getting the news interviews, but they make magic happen. But it takes time. It takes time, and that's just what I wanted to say for the day. That is my rant till I am over.
Okay.
Well, I think a little rant is healthy once in a while.
It is once in a while. I have noticed a bit of negativity in the community, which is a bit surprising to me. I know it seems like sometimes it can be a long time to get a match. Please remember, there's a couple of things. If you're waiting for a match, there's lots of ways that you can help and still participate and do things. And if you know somebody who is in need of a device, you can come into the system with a match that you yourself have made. So if you know a group of people who have people who need devices, you can come to matching with that information, and the matching team just puts all the pieces together, and you can work with that person. Keeping it in the system like that allows for a lot of things. It's a good idea for a number of reasons, and it keeps everything in the loop with any developments or changes with hand designs, any legal issues, any protections, making sure all the safety requirements are met. It's a really good idea to keep it within the system. But if you know somebody who needs a hand, there's no reason that you can't tell the matching team, and they will hook you up and say how to do that. So I want people to keep that in mind. So if we're able to just move on, at least for a little while, our last guest is actually Taran Sarwal, and if I've totally mangled your name, I apologize, from the International Red Cross. The International Committee of the Red Cross is sponsoring a fortuitously named eNABLE Makeathon, which is a 60-day challenge intended to generate solutions to problems faced by disabled people living in the developing world. So this challenge invites engineers and designers, the scientific and innovation community, and people with disabilities, humanitarians, manufacturers, investors, entrepreneurs, to come together and combine their expertise to ease the lives of people who are currently have no access to desperately needed technology. And yes, I took that right off their website, and I will post a link in the community to this. But in any event, this challenge, this 60-day challenge, so it's not a make-a-thon like what we talk about, where people get together to make hands. This challenge, which is sort of like a hackathon that instead of lasting 2 days, lasts 60 days, culminates in tangible designs that will be demoed to the Red Cross partners for scaling up in distribution. So we're hoping to help them and their current partners develop an open source pathway, because that will, that's kind of part of what we do, how we work, and it's also a requirement of the Google grant. So there's a potential opportunity here to engage the Red Cross in a way that will give both organizations a lot of leverage to move designs ahead, and it can really make a difference to people in all parts of the world. So Tyrone is here, and we want to talk about how our community can participate in a way that ensures that the related designs remain open and available to all. So I'm going to hand it over to you. Hi.
Hi. Thanks, Justine. And hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I'm talking here from Geneva.
We can hear you. It's good.
Yeah. Okay. As Justine said, fortuitous that we met, through the call that we made across the world for people to come and join us on basically enabling people with disabilities in developing countries, particularly rural people, to have the assistive devices that we need. And it's extraordinary that you're called eNABLE and we're doing the eNABLE Makeathon. So as John, who first initiated this link, was saying that it's extraordinary, he's asking us, where did you get the name from? And it also came out of just a discussion that we had in India. I posted the link on the chat page, so please go and have a look. But I'll just explain what we're trying to do. We're trying to, as Justine said, trying to bring the different parts of the ecosystem together so that we can match the needs of people with the kind of eventual product that can be scaled up across the world. We have an online Makeathon, and we have an on-site Makeathon. So on-site is something that will take place in Bangalore, and this is an event which will take 60 days so that people can come, that will be immersed in understanding the needs of disabled people. They will then have mentorship from different, from technologists, from people who understand the clinical needs of those who are disabled. They will actually have the disabled people join each of their teams, and they're given a month to come out with an early prototype. The next stage of the process is these prototypes will be looked at, and also not just from a technical standpoint, but also looking at them as being potential businesses or potential ideas that can be scaled up to be done commercially, either by the government or by entrepreneurs or by companies already working in this space. Based on that feedback, there will be a final making session for another month, and then we take people in front of investors and seed funders so that we could kind of develop this, go through the regulations, so this might be marketable products. So that's what we're planning to do. There is, as I said, an on-site plan to do this in Bangalore, but whatever we do in Bangalore will also be available online through classrooms, through direct links between what's happening in Bangalore and wherever you are in the world. And what we're really hoping for is, to connect with the maker community, to connect with other people around the world who are working on disability. And as Justine said at the beginning of this call, this is a kind of a match made in heaven in a sense, because from what I can see in the call, you're looking for people to test products, you're looking to find people to fit products with, and here maybe, and we are looking for people who know how to make things. I was very interested, I see Les is gone, but I think both Les and Peter mentioned things which I think are very interesting for us. So, the idea of having sensors and Wi-Fi capability to provide the information is something we absolutely, think would be useful. The R&D work that Peter was talking about, I think, could be useful. What I'd suggest you do is perhaps go onto the site. We have 9 challenges there. You'll see quite quickly that we're talking about IoT, we're talking about using new technologies, we're looking at things that people need to do with hands who don't have upper limbs, the suggestion is that that people apply with specific challenges that you feel that you can fulfill. We will look at the applications we get, but if you feel that you want to have another call where interested parties may want to ask us a few questions before they make the application, we're very happy, and we'd be absolutely happy to answer those questions for people so that they know exactly what they're letting themselves in for, exactly what they can get out of it, but also just to understand how the process would work. I'll stop there, but I mean I'm very sort of happy to answer questions, but I've just got to know the community. I've had a look at the website. It's been interesting to come onto this Hangout because I can see that you're it sounds like quite a mature community that is addressing a whole set of issues and kind of working together. I've seen on the website it's a very large community across the world. So, I mean, maybe the best thing I can do is answer any questions you have. Thanks.
Thank you very much. It sounds very interesting. I looked through the website of the challenges. I think there are some great opportunities for some partnering. We'll have to see how we can work all that out. And we will give it a couple of minutes to see if we have any additional questions that come in. Does anybody have anything else? We had a couple of questions. I posted them over onto our group chat if anybody wants to take any of those.
I can address Ryan. Ryan, we get everyone to send in a test hand for multiple purposes. It gives you a chance to work through that first assembly and the first printing to make sure there aren't any problems, because we found that matching volunteers directly with a family who had never made a hand, a lot of times there was a lot of pressure and frustration builds because something doesn't go right, and then you have both sides of the match are disappointed because the maker feels inadequate that their first hand didn't go correctly. The family's unhappy because they weren't able to get a device that worked. So we decided to start doing test hands so they can be sent in, and there's not that immediate pressure that you have someone that's needing something and you have to meet their needs. So if those test hands pass the little test we put them through to make sure that they're usable and they're safe, if we have a recipient that comes to us who can immediately take that hand and it's usable for them, we'll send it directly to them so they don't have to wait. Other times, we have requests from like Mexico, 60 hands went there, and various requests from other places. We can package those up in a big box, send them to a clinic, and that clinic can distribute them. Now, some of the test hands that come to us have little problems here and there, but it's nothing major, but it's not necessarily what you want to send to a child. So those sometimes go to events to build awareness, and it helps through that way. So everything is of use. I think we've reached a point where everyone has seen all the amazing news articles and all the coverage and all the attention, and it's kind of we've lost sight of our main goal, which is to help people. We can help them whether we ever meet them. We kind of just have to remember that even if you never see the person that receives your hand, you're helping them in some way. You're putting that smile on their face, and that's what we do. It's not always the gratification that we want, and it's not always that warm and fuzzy feeling that everyone's hoping for by actually meeting that child. But I think we have to realize that we're bigger than that, and there's much greater needs in the world by people that we will never meet, never know their name, but we can still help them if we get past that need to fill our own emotional needs through this.
Okay, thank you. We have a couple of other questions. The link to the Red Cross eNABLE Makeathon site, I just posted that as a comment on the post for this broadcast, so you'll find it there. I will later on today make a post to the community as well to make sure that you can see it there, because the right now the event is only on the events page, and it won't be moved over to the community page until it closes. It's just something that happens with Google Hangouts. I have to do it that way. George Bergesser is asking that he's seeing make your own cell phone kits being advertised. Is anyone looking at incorporating a cell phone into a prosthetic? I don't know. That's kind of a funny idea. I kind of like that idea. But I don't really have an answer for you on that. And we've got some other questions from N2R11, who was the person who was asking initially about the whole process. And he asked if there's any staff here to reply to all these questions. And yes, we are doing everything we can to answer the questions that are coming up in the Q&A. Peter, did you want to say something?
Yes, I think you should build a phone into a hand and then teach us how you did it. That sounds great. Yeah, do it. I think it'd be wonderful.
Well, I think it would be an interesting hand. Very, very functional.
I would also like to applaud the International Red Cross for having this Makeathon. I think that reaching out to the maker community is a great way to solve problems, and I think that there are a lot of people worldwide who would be very excited to be solving these humanitarian problems. And so I'm really very, very pleased to be connecting with Red Cross International.
Thanks, and I think this is probably the beginning of a relationship. This is a makeathon, so we can kind of develop that in a concentrated space. But hopefully, it leads to a longer link where people can connect up directly. People who need limbs can connect up directly with yourselves. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
The other question here, again, addresses the question of sending in a test hand and then being matched. And yes, people make a test hand. Once a test hand is approved, if there's a match that can be made, like that was explained, and once a test hand is approved, you're also free to print kits for some of the assembly events that we do. So there's always an opportunity to do stuff even if you have not received a direct match. So we've got a couple of more minutes. If there are any other questions, or if anyone else on our panel has anything they want to say or address.
I think everyone needs to realize while the focus is on making hands for people, there's a lot of other needs to keep all of this moving, to keep all of the maintenance and the administrative type things done. We have a list of volunteer task in the community resources folder that has been there for quite some time. It's been posted in the community, and have very few people offer to help. So those people behind the scenes that have dedicated themselves to this on a daily basis are having to take care of all those tasks too, because it's things that have to be done for us to move forward. So while you're waiting for a match, maybe say, hey, I have these skills, I could help with this too. And tell us how you would like to help with this, because honestly, when I came into this community, there was no real matching program. We had to build it. And I knew that needed to be done, and we took that on. And it's not perfect. In the good old days, it was great. We've grown past it now. But this community as a whole was built on initiative, doing things for yourself, and finding a way to solve a problem. Instead of calling out other volunteers and making them feel that no matter what they do, they're not good enough, I think we all need to get back to where we began and pitch in and try to overcome those hurdles and work together and see what we can do that's past that thing that we came on board for. Because I came to this to get a hand for my child. but I saw things that needed to be done. And everyone can do that instead of focusing on what's broken, help make it better.
I think those are very valid points, and I can assure people who are listening that there's definitely an effort made to improve some of the things that are shortcomings or that have grown so quickly that the systems put in place when this all started were able to handle the volume, and now things have grown exponentially, and it's hard to put the infrastructure in after the fact keep up with that sort of growth. So we are working on that, and definitely, yes, help on different things is appreciated. So I do not see any additional questions and answers, so we can wrap up a little early if nobody on the panel has anything else they wish to add. Does anyone? Oh, well, Melina, Chuck Untellis would like to give you a hug.
Oh, thank you.
So, George Burgesser is also offering to you to help out and know what he can do to help. So maybe offline you two can connect, and you can, actually what I'll do, I just saw another comment from Makerspace Forsyth asking where the community resource folder is. I will put a link to that both on the comments to this video and in the community as soon as I can. I have to take another call right after this, but I'll get it done as soon as I'm done with that. And that way people can take a list at what those tasks are. Oh, and here we go. George asks, if I develop a cell phone gauntlet, how do I introduce it to eNABLE?
Well,
so with that being a new design, Melina, do you want to talk about that?
We have an amazing new process that is almost the lack of a process, which is the gorgeousness about it, that should be coming out like the end of next week. We're going to make it as quick and simple as possible. We do need the designers themselves to do a little bit of the legwork, which most of you do already. We'll have a form on our foundation website for you to submit your design, and we'll follow up with you to let you know exactly what we need. And it should take a matter of a couple weeks if everything's the way it needs to be, so it can be included.
Okay, and yes, I've got several people asking about the link to the Tasks for Help. I promise I will get that out to everyone as soon as possible. You can get to it from the information, I believe the community, that folder might be in the pinned post. I can't actually remember if I put it there or not. I will put it there. I will put it in a post on its own, and I will put it as a comment on this community. So if you need to give me a little bit of time to do that, though, and I will get that done hopefully today. And I think that pretty much clears us out. I'm just double checking. If I've missed anything, I will post it as a comment on the page for this video. But until then, I guess remember, if anybody wants to come to speak, or if they know someone who should come to speak, to please let me know. And until then, thank you very much, everybody. And until next week, happy printing.